Hey guys, are you ready to transform your mind so you can transform your life? Coach Myrna brings you one-on-one coaching and expert guests weekly to help you to grow. Because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Looking for personal growth? Let's do it. Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio podcast and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Dr. Georgia Ede. Dr. Ede and I are going to be talking on the topic, change your diet, change your brain. Listen, changing your diet is so fundamental in so many areas of your life. You know, you've got diseases that can be cured with diet. You know, if you were diabetes or, any of those illnesses and chronic illnesses, the food that you put in your body is so fundamental. But I've never had a guest on the show that can link what we eat to our brain health. So today, that's what we're going to unpack. So welcome, Dr. Ede.
Thank you very much, Myrna. It's wonderful to be here with you.
You're very welcome. All right. So let me give you guys a brief introduction. Dr. Georgia Ede is a Harvard-trained psychiatrist specializing in nutrition science and brain metabolism. Her 25 years of clinical experience include 12 years as a college psychiatrist and nutrition consultant at Smith College and Harvard University Health Services, where she was the first to offer students nutrition-based approaches as an alternative to psychiatric medications. Dr. Ede speaks internationally about dietary approaches to psychiatric disorders. She co-authored the first inpatient study of the ketogenic diet for treatment-resistant mental illness, developed the first medically accredited course in ketogenic diets for mental health practitioners, and was honored to be named a recipient of the Suzuki Brain Research Fund first annual Metabolic Mind Award. Her new book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind, a powerful plan to improve mood, overcome anxiety, and protect memory for a lifetime of optimum health, is now out and takes the confusion out of nutrition and replaces it with refreshingly original brain food rules based on sound science that makes intuitive sense, works in clinical practice, and is sustainable. All right. So this is a big topic, a big conversation. I hope you guys stay till the end. So, Dr. Ede, as we jump in, can you explain how dietary choices impact common mental health issues like anxiety and depression, which is what most people see?
Yes. So it turns out that the brain cares a lot about what we eat. And you can actually help yourself feel better, sometimes in as little as a few days or just a few weeks with using dietary changes. You can improve almost regardless of what the issue is, whether it's attention problems or anxiety or mood swings or depression or even memory problems or even more serious mental illnesses like psychosis and bipolar disorder. No matter what the issue is, you can have a lot of influence over how you feel using dietary changes, but you have to know which changes are the ones that are most worth making because they're not the ones you're used to hearing about. So these can be, if you change your diet in the right ways, it can help you in ways that no medicine can. And that's why I wrote the book, is because so many people don't know about these dietary approaches, and they think they've tried everything and they're starting to give up hope. They haven't found a medicine that's worked, or they're really struggling with a family, with family at home or at work or at school. And they don't realize that there's so much more they can do to help themselves if they have the right information. So that's why we're here to talk about the latest science and all this, what I call the science of hope for mental health.
Wow, that's great. I started out by talking about anxiety and depression, which, a lot of the population has, but as you were talking, I remembered some other things like schizophrenia, bipolar, even Alzheimer's. Is that a brain? That's a brain disease, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So, wow. Now, when you as we were talking before I pressed record, what was my knowledge of nutrition? And my knowledge of nutrition is, if you go plant-based, you can usually fix most things. Is that where we're going here with this as well when you talk about diet? Or maybe you want to, let's dive into what exactly the diet we're talking about.
Yeah. So thanks for mentioning that, because that is one of the things we hear all the time, is that one of the healthiest changes you can make to your diet is to go plant-based. And I will just say right up front that I'm nutritionally pro-choice. So I really will support people, and I do this in my clinical work, and I write about this in the book. I want everybody to have a seat at the table when it comes to better mental health, regardless of your dietary preferences. So for people who prefer to eat plant-based, I will help them, understand which changes they can make, even without adding animal food for better mental health. But actually, most of the recommendations in this book are different from the ones we're used to hearing. So we're used to hearing things like go plant-based, or eat a Mediterranean diet, or add these superfoods to your diet. Add more colorful fruits and vegetables, add more turmeric, add more, dark chocolate, blueberries, all whole grains, flaxseed smoothies, you name it. There is no science behind any of those recommendations. And those recommendations, if they're working for you, okay. But my guess is most of your listeners who have tried those things have noticed that they really don't work. And so if you have tried them and they haven't worked for you, I want you to know that there is, that if you change your diet in ways that you're not used to hearing about, that's where the real power is. And the reason why I don't recommend, for best optimal mental health, I don't recommend a vegan diet. I don't even recommend a Mediterranean diet. I'm actually looking at the foods you need to eat that will deliver the right nutrients to your brain, the vitamins and minerals and fats and proteins that your brain needs to work at its best. Which foods have those nutrients in them? We're going to look at that. And then how best to protect your brain against things that can cause damage. And things like sugars and flours and cereals and fruit juices and vegetable oils and all these, and alcohol and even the grains and the legumes. The legumes are like beans, peas, and lentils. These foods are actually working against your better brain health. So the strategies that I'm recommending in the book are very different from the ones that we're used to hearing about. And I talk a lot also about ketogenic diets, low carbohydrate diets. I know that's not for everybody. Don't worry. The book is not just about that. But so if people are listening thinking, oh no, I can't live without rice or beans or whatever it is. Don't worry. There are lots of other changes you can make. Or if you're not comfortable including animal foods in your diet, don't worry, there are lots of other changes you can make. But I do recommend, for optimal mental health, that people include some animal foods in the diet, that they know which ones are the right ones to include, and that they follow whole foods principles, but that they know which whole foods are working for them and which ones are working against them, and just kind of taking all the confusion out of it, because we've just been getting all the wrong information for generations about brain food.
Yes, it's very true. Listen, there is a lot of noise regarding what you should be eating and what you shouldn't be eating. And usually it's centered around weight loss, which is basically, when I look at nutrition, I'm not looking at it to help with my brain health. I'm looking at it so that I can, have, weight loss, right?
Yes.
Right. And look good in my clothes and prevent diabetes. that kind of thing. But that's why I said when we started off, I've never had the conversation where we're looking at diet and the brain. But I want to circle back. So the reason everybody talks about plant-based is because fruits and vegetables are good for you, right? And they say that when you don't eat animal protein, then you're not getting quality-based protein. So what is the science behind brain food? What is it your brain needs? People that want to go into the details can get a copy of your book. But in a overall high-level overview, what exactly does our brain need to prevent things like anxiety and depression?
Okay, two things. Before I get to that great question, what is the brain? What's the, in a nutshell, what is the brain? What is the best advice about brain food? I promise I will answer that in a minute. But I want to go back to what you just said before, which was so important. You said, what most people out there aren't thinking about brain health. They're thinking about their waistline. They're thinking about looking good in their clothes, feeling good, losing weight, preventing diabetes. Yes, 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 yes. Those are all really important to all of us and to me too, right? And so, but before we talk about the brain food, I just want to say this one thing. The same rules apply to improving your brain health as taking care of your physical health, meaning not just your waistline, but your blood sugar levels, your risk for diabetes, for heart disease, reducing your risk for cancer, reducing your risk for strokes, bringing your blood pressure into a normal range, and just about any aspect of health. All the rules are the same. We don't need a different diet for the brain than we do for the rest of the body. It wouldn't make any sense, right? So we can't eat a different diet for every different organ. So the great thing about this is that if you follow these rules, you will also look and feel better. You will naturally and easily lose weight. You will bring your blood sugar into a normal range within a week. You can bring you can turn diabetes around within a few weeks to a few months. It's really very powerful information that applies to all aspects of health. So anybody out there who's thinking, oh, I don't really care about my brain health, I'm doing fine.
I don't think anybody says that.
Is the thing. Don't worry, it's the same. So
yeah.
It will help you. If you're overweight, it will help you lose weight. Obesity runs in my family. I grew up a very overweight child and adolescent, and I've struggled my weight my whole life. Following these rules keeps my weight in a healthy range, and I'm 59 years old. So I just want people to know that I do care about that too. So we all care about that.
That's good.
So, but now in a just really short, because you said there's lots more information in the book, but the bottom line about brain food is there's three rules to follow. Your diet needs to nourish your brain, protect your brain, and energize your brain. So to nourish your brain, all that means is the foods you feed yourself have to include all the essential nutrients that your brain needs. So it needs to include all the vitamins and minerals and the right proteins and the right fats and all this sort of thing for your brain to function properly. So nourish the brain. So you need to know which foods contain those nutrients. And this is just biology, basic biology. The animal foods are the ones that are the most nutritious and also the healthiest and least risky for your health. I know that's not what we usually hear, but it's really meat, seafood, eggs, poultry are the foods that are the most nourishing. So it's and if you don't include them in your diet, you are going to have to jump through some extra hoops to get what you need. Okay, so nourish all nutrients, and that also means I recommend avoiding the grains and the beans, because those foods, not only are they very low in nutrients, they're so low in nutrients that so many of the products that we buy that are made with grain have to be fortified with synthetic vitamins and minerals because they are not nutritious enough on their own. So they're low in nutrients, but they're also high in something called anti-nutrients, which means that they actually make it harder for you to absorb the nutrients that they do contain. So they're really, and there's lots of other reasons to avoid them, but they're really, from a nutrition standpoint, one of the least nutritious types of foods you could eat. So they're also really hard to digest, and they're really high in carbohydrate, and I could go on and on.
This episode is sponsored by GoFundMe. A few years back, my goddaughter needed surgery in Guyana and lacked the funds for the surgery. My family started a GoFundMe fundraiser to help her get the surgery. She received the surgery and it saved her life. Research shows that people love to help others in need. So if you ever need to raise funds for surgery, funeral expenses, travel expenses, send in your kid to the Olympics, or even fund your book or movie project, GoFundMe is the most trusted place to raise funds, and it's a lot easier than you think. It only takes a few minutes to set up your fundraiser. With a community of over 150 million people, GoFundMe is the leader in fundraising. They help people help people. You can withdraw your funds at any time, even if you don't reach your goal. So, the next time you need help, head over to gofundme.com/transform and get started by tapping the green button. Asking for help is the smart thing to do. It's free to start, free to manage, and designed to help you reach your goals. Start your fundraiser today through my special URL, gofundme.com/transform. Also, as a Transform Your Mind listener, you will get a free coaching session with a GoFundMe expert. So whether you're starting a fundraiser for today or you want to set one up for the future, go right now to gofundme.com/transform. One of my favorite memories as a kid was going camping. It began my love of nature and trees. As a mom, I want to share with my kids everything I loved about summertime and nature growing up. The parks, beaches, and camping trips. But with all these heat waves, wildfires, and storms, unnatural extreme weather events caused by fossil fuel pollution, the places we loved as kids are being threatened. The Science Moms are a nonpartisan group of scientists who are, like many of you, moms. Whether it's understanding the real cause of extreme weather or simply talking about it with friends and family, the Science Moms want you to know that a better future for our kids is possible. Human-made problems require human-made solutions, and no one is more equipped and motivated to lead the charge than our nation's millions of moms. Science shows us pollution is causing unnatural disasters that are making our world more dangerous. That's why I'm joining the millions of moms who are taking action to protect all we love. Join us at sciencemoms.com. As we're heading to fall, I need to change my wardrobe from bright colors to fall colors. Luckily for me, Quince offered timeless and high-quality fall clothing I adore, ensuring my wardrobe stays fresh and seasonal. Like the gray cashmere tee I just purchased for $49, 50% off the regular price, or the black organic cotton maxi dress for just $69. All of Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I love that. Make switching seasons a breeze with Quince high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/Myrna for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/MYRNA to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Myrna.
Rule number 1, nourish, which means including some animal foods and excluding, if you can, the grains and legumes. Now, if you're following a vegan diet, you need to include some legumes, so we can come back to that if you want. But anyway, protect, nourish, protect, energize. Protect means not eating the things that are going to cause damage to the brain. Sugars, flours, cereals, fruit juices, all the refined carbohydrates, the syrups, the crystals, the powders, the liquids, all of those, anything that tastes sweet and is not a whole food or is a refined starch like a powder, get it out. That's your number one risk factor for high blood sugar and insulin levels and type 2 diabetes and all the other problems that come with it. So that's avoid the vegetable oils, things like soybean oil, all those bottled oils that come out of factories. Those are very damaging to the brain as well. So protect. Protection is not about adding special things to your diet like colorful superfoods. There's no such thing. We can talk about that if you want. There's no such thing as a brain superfood. There's no magical plant food out there that's going to save you. It's about avoiding the things that cause the damage in the first place. Sugars, flours, cereals, fruit juices, vegetables, those are what you really want to pay attention to. Energize is step 3. Energize means keeping your blood sugar and insulin levels in a healthy range. That means eating foods that don't put your blood sugar up over its normal healthy limit. So again, what does that mean? Getting all those refined carbohydrates out, all those naked carbohydrates that turn instantly into glucose in your bloodstream and give you a big glucose spike. And so that's where you're going to be doing damage to your metabolism and putting yourself on the road to type 2 diabetes and Alzheimer's disease and everything else. So if you don't know where your blood sugar and insulin levels are running, I explain in the book how to do that, or you and I can talk about that. I'll talk about whatever you think your listeners are most interested in. But what this all boils down to is whole foods minus the grains and the beans. So like fruits, vegetables, meat, seafood, poultry, eggs, nuts. So basically kind of a paleo style diet, if people have heard of that. Kind of like a hunter-gatherer kind of diet. Basically whole plant and animal foods that we would have found in nature for most of our evolution, wandering around what we could find to eat. That's what our brains evolved to nourish themselves on. And keeping your blood sugar and insulin levels in a healthy range. If you do those 3 things, you will be healthier than 99% of the people around you, and you will be amazed at how much healthier you stay than all of your friends and family members who are falling apart. And we're not designed to fall apart. Our brains are not supposed to, our brains are not supposed to deteriorate with age. Right. It's not normal to have memory problems. That's so I just want people to expect, if you feed your brain right, you can expect more from it.
Yeah. I was listening very intently because I just heard recently about, because my breakfast is a smoothie. Uh-huh. And you hear people talking about protein. But just recently, I think I was listening to someone that calls herself the glucose doctor. I think that's where I got that from. And yeah, that's who I got it from. And she was saying that the quality of protein that's in animal protein is much better than the plant protein, because the plant protein is not. And I never heard that before. So then I'm thinking, okay, how do I get animal protein? And then I think I went to Whole Foods and saying, where is the one that's animal protein? And then the girl said, well, whey protein is animal protein. And I've always heard people talking about whey protein. I did not know it was animal protein. So the reason I'm mentioning that is because I think what you're saying is that the quality of protein or quality of fats, I'm assuming, that you get from the animal protein or the animal foods is far superior to what you will get from the, The fruits and vegetables really only don't even have much protein. They have just, carbs. And then I heard people talking how your brain is, I don't know, 90 something percent fat or something. So is that why we need the animal protein or the animal fats? Let us know what's in the animal products that the brain likes. Is it the fat, the quality protein? What is it?
Oh, I love this because, yes, there's so much confusion about this. And I know you're not alone in trying to sort this out, right? And it took me a long time to figure this out too. And that's why I had to study nutrition for so many years, is that, the reason we eat protein is because it contains these little building blocks called amino acids that we use to make our own proteins, like to build muscle or to build neurotransmitters, the brain chemicals, the communication molecules in the brain, to make skin cells, heart cells. All of our cells, we need to build we need protein to build parts, right? So we need the right mixture of the right amino acids. And so the problem with plant proteins is that most of them, there's a couple of exceptions, but most plant proteins don't contain the right mixture, the right balance of all the amino acids we need. Most plant proteins are missing a few of the amino acids, which is kind of like trying to spell words if you don't have all the letters of the alphabet, right? So this is really important because plant foods do contain protein, but do they contain the right amino acids? And so not all proteins are created equal. All animal proteins are complete proteins. So whether it comes from eggs or meat or seafood or poultry or dairy, you don't even have to think about it. They're all naturally complete. No questions asked. If you include some sort of animal food in your diet, I don't really care what it is, then you will be meeting your amino acid needs without having to do any special planning. Most plant foods are missing some key amino acids, or they're too low in certain ones. There's a couple of exceptions. So if you are trying to follow a vegan diet, for example, it's really important for you to include either a protein supplement, protein powders. Not ideal, but you can do that, like a pea protein powder, whatever. But really the best is tofu. So tofu is a complete protein. And it's naturally low in carbohydrates, so it's not going to put your blood sugar levels up. The problem with tofu is it's made of soy. And soy, there's some risks involved with taking in soy in terms of thyroid health and gut health and other issues. But you got to kind of choose your battles. You don't have to choose your battles when it comes to meat, seafood, poultry, eggs. Dairy's a little different, but meat, seafood, poultry, you don't have to worry. And I know people have heard they're not bad for, eggs contain too much cholesterol. Red meat's going to cause colon cancer. Animal fat's going to make you fat. None of those things are true. And I explain this in the book. If you're worried about it, you don't take my word for it. See for yourself. See what you think. There is no evidence that animal food, that meat, seafood, poultry, or eggs are harmful to you. So they really are your best bet, and they don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be fancy. Anybody can afford this. My mom lives on a shoestring, and she would not eat this way if she couldn't afford to do it. So it's absolutely critical that you get those. And it's not just about the protein and the amino acids. There are all these other nutrients in the animal foods that are missing in plant foods. So you're not just getting lovely quality amino acids. You're getting all kinds of other nutrients that are really hard to find in plant foods, or you can't get from plant foods at all. So there's a lot of...
Because no plant food has fat, right?
No, thank you. I forgot that you asked about that. Most plant foods are naturally low in fat. So we think, plant foods are good for us because they're low in fat, and we don't want to be fat, so we don't want to eat fat. So two things about that. So one is that, yes, most plant foods are low in fat, but there's some exceptions. So nuts are high in fat, avocados are high in fat, olives, and coconuts. There are some, foods that are high in fat, but most plant foods, you're absolutely right, are quite low in fat. So the other thing to say about that is that fat doesn't make us fat. It's high insulin levels that make us fat. And what raises insulin the most is carbohydrate, especially the refined carbohydrates. So if you want to see your insulin level go through the roof, and when your insulin goes up, it literally turns off your fat burning enzymes. You cannot burn fat. You could have 500 extra pounds of fat on your body, hoping to be burned, just a big storage of energy, waiting and dying to be burned. You can't even see it. You can't access it. Your body can't burn it because your insulin levels are saying no. So in order to burn fat, you've got to get those insulin levels down. And one of the best ways to do that is to look at the carbohydrates in your diet and get those to the right level for your personal metabolism. Some of us need to go very low. Others of us need to just kind of go moderate. It depends. And the other piece you asked was, what about animal fats? Well, animal fats are the only place that you're going to find the most beautiful molecules called omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA, which is critical for brain health. Plant foods contain absolutely no DHA or EPA. These are the omega-3 fatty acids that we can't make ourselves. We have to, they're essential. We have to take them in. It is very difficult for us to turn plant fats into DHA and EPA. In some cases, virtually impossible. So we must, if we want optimal brain health, include some animal fat in the diet or take a supplement, not a plant supplement, but actually an algae-based supplement. Algae is not really a plant. It's kind of halfway between a plant and an animal. Algae extracts do contain omega-3 fatty acids, which are DHA and EPA. Those are the ones the brain and body are looking for. They're not looking for the omega-3s that are in plants, which are, it's called ALA. Those are the ones that are in flax seeds and chia seeds and walnuts. Those are not the ones you're looking for. So there are there's just lots of incorrect information floating around out there that's making people really confused about what to eat.
Well, that was good information right there. I mean, I've heard the DHEA being thrown around, and I think I purchased it the other day, but I haven't started taking it. Yeah, but I did not get that little piece where the DHEA omega-3s is what your brain needs. People were just talking you stop making it and you need to supplement it and things like that, but I didn't understand it. So that's good. Yes, that's really good information on there, because I take omega-3s right now because they're saying it's so important, but I have no clue which form it is. I just go buy it.
Exactly. And your marketers love that. Marketers loved us to be confused about it because they sell more of the bulk things to us, right? Yeah. So the best omega-3 supplements, if you want one that's not animal-based, is algae, has an algae-based supplement. Those are more expensive than the fish oil. You can get fish oil or krill oil. Those are from animal fat, fish or krill. If your omega-3 fatty acid supplement comes from fish or krill or algae, you're good to go. If your omega-3 supplement comes from flaxseed or walnuts or chia seeds, or then it's almost useless.
Okay, thank you.
Not worth your money.
Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Usually, improvements don't come overnight, but once in a while, one small fix can catapult you to the next level. If your commerce platform is holding your business back, you owe it to yourself to see what Shopify can do for you. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling satin sheets from Shopify's in-person POS system or offering organic olive oil on Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform, you're covered.
And once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers to buyers. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/transform to take your business to the next level today.
What if you could take a weekly shot to lose weight and keep it off? If you've heard of Ozempic or Wegovy, you've probably heard three things. They're effective, but they're expensive, and they're hard to get. That's where Ro comes in. Through Ro, you can access prescription compounded GLP-1s with the same weight loss ingredients as brand name GLP-1s at a fraction of the cost. Ro has compounded GLP-1s in stock right now. You can get it in 1 to 4 days if you qualify. Ro members have support throughout the process. If eligible for medication, patients have access to their provider on demand for any questions. You can see if you qualify from the comfort of your own home. This means no schedule a doctor's appointment, no commute to the doctor's office, and no waiting rooms. Go right now to ro.co/transform. Membership starts at just $99 for your first month. Medication costs are separate. That's ro.co/transform. Please note, go to ro.co/safety for black box warnings and full safety information. Compounded medication is not required to and does not receive FDA review or approval. RX only. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Do you schedule time for self-care? Or is it something you do when you have time for it? Is it a non-negotiable? Self-care for me is a non-negotiable. My self-care routine includes morning walks in nature or time at the gym. But sometimes our schedules are packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more. It's easy to let our priorities like self-care slip. Making time for therapy is a form of self-care. But even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. When you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma, etc. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/TYM today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/TYM. That was great. I love this show. I learn along with the listeners every week. So that's amazing. All right. So we spent some time on the brain food, and this was good information. So thank you for sharing that. But one of the things that your work does is you're using these foods as supplementation instead of psychiatric medicine.
Yeah.
So how does nutrition-based therapies compare to medication? Obviously, we know medication is bad for you. I don't even need to ask that question. But what is the main question is, if you eat the right foods, how does that help with your mental health issues?
Yeah, I love it. So a quick note about medication. So I do still use medications in my practice, and there is an important place for them. So, for example, psychiatric emergencies, a psychiatric crisis is not a mental health crisis, is not a time for nutrition counseling. We need to keep people safe. We need to keep people, stabilize the situation first. And then we can talk about diet. So medications are still and there are some people who still need some medication support, even with a really healthy diet. And so, but I really prefer, under most circumstances, a food first approach and medicines as a backup if we need more support, and other types of strategies as well. We add in other pieces to the mix. But food first, because we want to shore up brain health, like really get that brain as nourished and protected and energized as we can, to get that good foundation and see how far that takes us. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't just improve people's health. In many cases, it actually completely puts their mental health condition into complete recovery. So you can, and the beautiful thing about this is that you don't even have to choose if you don't want to. So you can add a healthy diet to the medication. And I do that all the time. So a lot of patients come to me, they're already taking medication. They might be taking 2, 3, 4, 5 psychiatric medications. I don't want to, rock the boat and destabilize somebody. So we keep the medicines in place. We add the diet to the medicines and then gradually work towards seeing if we can reduce the medications over time in a nice, safe, slow tapering way, because you should never stop a medication abruptly. That can be very dangerous. So we combine these strategies and then work towards the least amount of medication possible, which in some cases is none at all. And that's a beautiful thing when that happens. The problem with medications is not that they're not completely useless. They do help some people. The problem is that they fail most people. And the second problem is the people who do get benefit are almost always paying a hefty price in terms of side effects. So some of our most powerful and effective psychiatric medications are a group of medicines called the antipsychotics. They're now used for all kinds of things, not just psychosis. These are medicines like Risperdal and Zyprexa and Abilify and Seroquel, and there's lots of them out there now. These are antipsychotic medications. They're used for mood swings. They're used for insomnia. They're used for anxiety. They're used for agitation. They're used for bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. They're used for lots of different things because they do work fast. And in some cases, they can be really life-saving or life-changing because if someone's in a serious situation. The problem with these medicines is that even when they do work, they cause a lot of problems with health. They can cause people to gain 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds. They can cause their blood sugar and insulin levels to rise within minutes to hours of the first dose and lead very quickly to type 2 diabetes. I mean, it's lots of problems with these medicines. And they make people really tired and hungry. And they increase the risk for heart disease, and they triple the risk for type 2 diabetes. So these are not, low risk strategies, right? Uh-huh. So medicines are important, but diet, I like to say, the most powerful way to change your brain chemistry is with food, because that's where the brain chemicals come from in the first place. Mm-hmm. So why not start there if you can? And the way, because you asked, I know this is a long way of answering your question, because you asked,
great.
I know, going on and on, but you asked, how does food change our brain chemistry and improve our mental health? And there's a lot of different ways, but the 3 main ways, and I'm going to come back to this over and over again: nourish, protect, energize. If you nourish the brain by giving it all the right nutrients, then the brain has all the parts it needs, all the components, all the building blocks it needs to operate properly. It has all its pieces. All the ingredients are there. That's important because a lot of us are walking around with nutrient deficiencies. 20% of women are iron deficient. And that's ridiculous. Iron is essential to brain function. I like to tell people, if you have iron deficiency, you don't just have a blood problem, you have a brain problem. Yeah. You cannot make some of your neurotransmitters like dopamine. You can't make without iron. Your brain can't make energy without iron. We all want energy in our brain, right? So if you feed the brain the nutrients it needs, it'll work better, of course. The second part is protect. The other way eating a healthy diet protects you is it protects you against what we now understand are the main drivers of mental health problems is inflammation of the brain, which you can't see or feel, but it's there. It's there if you have mental health problems. It's usually there. Something called oxidative stress. That's why we're always told, oh, you should eat these foods that are antioxidants. You got to fight off this oxidative stress. Well, what's causing the oxidative stress in the first place? It's the refined carbohydrates and the vegetable oils and all the processed foods that are throwing us out of balance in the first place. And there's no superfood out there that's going to save you if that's the way you're eating. You can't just sprinkle some superfoods on top of a junky diet and hope it's going to help you. It doesn't work. And so you got to first do no harm. Take the harmful stuff out. And then the third way is energizing the brain safely. If you're eating foods that keep your glucose and insulin levels in a happy range, then that is going to protect your brain's energy supply for the long term. Because what causes a lot of mental health problems, inflammation, oxidative stress, and insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, high blood sugar and insulin levels are just as damaging for the brain as they are for the rest of the body. So another thing I like to say is if you have type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, you don't just have a blood sugar problem, you have a brain sugar problem.
Right.
The more sugary your diet is, the harder it becomes for your brain to turn that sugar into energy, and you start to run low on energy. And this paves the path to all kinds of mental health problems. So those are the ways that eating a healthier diet is going to help your brain work at its best.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, as you were talking, I remember a psychiatrist that I interviewed a couple of years ago, and he said something that was so profound. And I was thinking whether I should mention it or not. But then you kind of talked about how the medications has a lot of side effects. And what he said is that taking these, because he pulled people off of them as well. I don't remember what his solution was. It wasn't diet, but I don't remember how he helped them, maybe by counseling or something. But he said is the antipsychotic medications is like cutting off your arm if you have a mosquito bite. You're not gonna. You've never heard that one before, right? Yeah, that's good luck. He says, yeah, you're not going to feel the bite anymore because your arm is not there.
But you haven't solved the problem.
So, yeah, I mean, full disclosure here, I told you I'm menopausal, and every menopause person has a problem with sleeping. And my bloody doctor decides to give me a medication. He said that it's for depression, and the side effect is that you can sleep.
Yeah.
And as soon as I looked at the depression thing, because I'm aware that these drugs for depression is not very good for you, so I never took it. And then my sister is a registered nurse, and she has a problem sleeping. So I decided, hey, this is what my doctor gave me. So I say to her, she says to me, don't take that stuff. This is what I feed, the thing that is highly addictive. And she said, this is basically what I give the people in what I, because she works she was a nurse in a rehab place for drug addicts. She says that's what she gives. So, I mean, my point is that, yeah, you mentioned that some of the drugs are, help with your sleeping and things like that. So I am very aware of these antipsychotic drugs, how bad they are. So the good news is if I can, glean for what you're saying is that the drugs are affecting a part of the brain, where food can also do the same thing, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So a really good example with insomnia and anxiety, right? So a lot of people have trouble sleeping, or they feel too anxious, they worry too much, or they're, become easily panicky, or obsessing about things either in the past or things that might happen in the future. It's a really, really common issue. And sleep problems are really, really common, especially perimenopause, postmenopause. I'm 59. I know exactly I know what I'm talking about here. I feel your situation. What you really want to understand, and this is a big problem in medical care in general, is, oh, you have a problem. Which medicine can I give you? Rather than thinking, why? Why can't you sleep? Okay, why is your mood unstable? Why are you anxious? Why are you depressed? Right? So what's going on there? And can we get to the root of that in some natural way and try to restore balance without medication, or as little medication as possible, right? So one of the things that can cause, for example, insomnia in perimenopause is estrogen deficiency and progesterone deficiency. So it is becoming more and more, the awareness about this is starting to become more common. You're starting to hear more people talk about hormone replacement for sleep, hormone replacement for mood problems that can show up in perimenopause, hormone replacement for the fatigue and depression that you can see, and for the strange redistribution of weight that starts to happen in our 40s and 50s. Our metabolism shifts and slows down, and bone health, hair, skin, muscle health. We have estrogen receptors throughout our entire brains and bodies. Estrogen is not just about, monthly cycles and pregnancy. Estrogen is essential for the optimal health of our gut cells, our brain cells, our bone cells, our muscle cells. And of course, and a lot of people, including, now this is not medical advice. You go speak to your practitioner, find out if this is an option for you, because there are lots of things to consider before you think about hormone replacement. But I have found it very, very useful myself, and lots of my patients and lots of my family members and friends have found it to be really a godsend. Now, in terms of diet, there's a huge dietary driver of insomnia and anxiety is, again, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but these refined carbohydrates, sugars, flours, cereals, fruit juices, powders, crystals, liquids, syrups, all of these things that when you eat these naked refined carbohydrates, basically naked sugars, right? There's no fiber in them. They're not coming from whole food, right? It's all, they give you a spike in your blood sugar that goes unnaturally steep, beyond what it's supposed to, and a big insulin spike right after it. When that's happening, you might think, okay, well, who cares? The blood sugar went up, but the insulin brought it back down again. Okay, that's fine. The problem is that those spikes are talking to all the rest of it. It's not just a blood sugar and insulin spike. It puts your whole hormonal system, all your reproductive hormones, your blood pressure regulating hormones, your stress hormones, and your brain chemicals, your neurotransmitters, puts all of those on an invisible roller coaster for many, many hours afterwards. So it's like this huge ripple effect where you are suddenly very unstable physically and emotionally for many hours afterwards. So this is why it's not just about blood sugar, it's about your whole body and brain being thrown out of balance. And it might feel like something is terribly wrong on the outside, but it's coming from, remember that movie? The call is coming from inside the house, right? Like this is, it's inside, right? Your life can look beautiful on the outside. You can be sitting on a beach, relaxing, looking at the ocean, and suddenly like, why am I worrying about this? Why am I so anxious? Why am I having a panic attack? Why do I feel uncomfortable? Why is my brain racing? Why can't I sleep? Why can't I relax? Why do I feel so tense and worried and anxious? That's your hormones being thrown out of balance by the foods you're eating. And people can feel better. There's some examples in the book. People can feel better if they get themselves off that invisible roller coaster. It can take as little as 3 days to get yourself off that roller coaster. Most people have no idea what it feels like to come off of that because they've been eating the wrong way for their whole life.
Yeah. Listen, yes, food. I mean, I know that people can cure themselves from cancer by food. They can cure themselves from diabetes by food.
Yep.
Now we've got the brain piece. It's great. And we all know that medications, regardless of what they're for, it's also funny when you hear these ads that, I mean, there's so many things that the side effects, and obviously the FDA needs for them to mention them. And I'm thinking like, why would I want to take this drug if it's got all these side effects? But I guess when you have to, right? So this is a great conversation. I'm learning a lot of that. Now, I have never gone the hormone replacement way because, I had a brief stint with stage 0, with calcified breast cancer, stage 0. Mm-hmm. And they said it was estrogen dominant. So I've stayed away from that. So when I go to the doctor and I says, oh yeah, I know your estrogen is low. What are you going to do about it? So I have the workaround, and I don't eat sugar. So that's not it. But, I have learned to, my drug of choice is the melatonin with the I buy this melatonin that has some relaxing herbs, and that helps me sleep. So that's good. And I understand melatonin is not it's not addictive. So that's great. So that's amazing. I am loving our conversation. Now, one of the questions I have here, what are some actionable steps that someone can start taking today to start improving their mental health through diet? I don't know if we covered it because we talked about, what is the 3 things is nourish, protect, and energize. Is there more?
So for your listeners, so we've already talked about some of the dietary changes you can make, including some animal foods, taking out the grains and legumes if that works for you, getting rid of the refined carbohydrates in the vegetables and the ultra processed foods. I basically say if it has an ingredient label, don't eat it. Meats, seafoods, poultry, vegetables, eggs, fruits, nuts, those things don't need ingredient labels. They're single ingredient whole foods. Stick to those, and my gosh, that's most of what you need to do. But the other thing, the energize piece, is I want to give your listeners a few very simple tests that they can do themselves. Really easy. Some of them are free, others of them are really cheap, and some of them they've already had already, to figure out where they stand on what's called the insulin resistance spectrum, which is just like how close are you getting to diabetes? Basically, how high are your glucose and insulin levels running? So a lot of people, when they go to their doctor for their annual physical or whatever, they will get, there's 2 tests they're usually always included to look at their metabolic health. In addition to them weighing you, they'll weigh you. But 2 other things they will usually do: a fasting blood sugar, which is after you haven't eaten overnight and you go on the next morning, get your blood drawn. What's your blood sugar look like first thing in the morning? The other thing they'll do is a hemoglobin A1C. This is how much sugar has been sticking to your red blood cells over the past 3 months. So basically gives you kind of a average of your blood sugar over the past 3 months. And the other thing they'll do is a cholesterol panel. And that includes what's called your LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, the HDL cholesterol, your so-called good cholesterol, and your triglycerides. Triglycerides are the fat that's in your blood. So for anybody out there who wants to know whether they have insulin resistance or pre-diabetes, so when they check your blood sugar and your hemoglobin A1C, the problem with those tests is by the time those are abnormal, you are already in huge trouble. It can take 20 years of your metabolism going downhill before your fasting glucose and your hemoglobin A1C become abnormal. So those are like the train's already left the station. What you want to know is, are you already on that road and can you turn it around? So, and so here's where your cholesterol panel can help you, and one extra test can help you. So if you want to know if you have insulin resistance is this sort of stage that you're going through while you're on the road to all kinds of danger. So what are the clues? If your waist circumference, your measurement around your waist, is more than half your height, that's a clue that you could have insulin resistance. If your triglycerides on your cholesterol panel are more than 100 milligrams per deciliter, that's a clue that you are eating too much carbohydrate for your personal metabolism, and it's turning into fat in the blood. Another clue is ask your doctor or order it yourself. It's really cheap through an online pharmacy, $10 or $15, for a fasting insulin test, not a fasting glucose, but a fasting insulin test. Because what you want to know isn't whether your glucose is at nice and low first thing in the morning after you haven't eaten for 12 hours. You want to know how much insulin your body is pumping out to keep that glucose normal, because that high insulin level is the problem. And most doctors don't look for that. And over the years, it goes up and up and up and up, and you become more and more insulin resistant and all kinds of problems. The book explains more of this, but fasting insulin level, you want your fasting insulin to be in the single digits. You want your triglycerides below 100. You want your waist circumference to be less than half your height. And the other thing you can do, what did I forget? Oh, so when you're looking at your cholesterol panel, I want you to pay less attention to the LDL. That's what your doctor's going to look at. Oh, your LDL is too high. We have to give you a medication. That's the least important number on your panel. Triglycerides, watch those like a hawk. Get those down below 100. And your HDL cholesterol, the so-called good cholesterol, you want that to be high, but you want that to be above 50 or 60, depending if you're a male or female. You want that to be nice and high. If you've got a nice high HDL and nice low triglycerides, and your weight is coming down towards the weight takes longer to fix, but if you follow these rules, your weight will naturally start to come down because you'll get your insulin levels down. You can't burn fat unless your insulin levels are low. So that means whatever you need to do to get it down. You could do intermittent fasting, you could do exercise, you could lower your carbohydrate intake, you can lower your calories. There's lots of different things you can do to lower your insulin levels. However you can do it, because it's the high insulin that is causing all of our diseases, most of our diseases. So these are some tricks that people can use to figure out where they are on that spectrum. And I want people to know, even if you see every single one of those numbers is in the wrong place, you can turn your triglycerides, your insulin, and your cholesterol level, you can turn those around within a matter of weeks. You can get them all in a normal range if you use the right changes. The weight is going to take longer, but it will take care of itself if you lower that insulin level, because once you lower the insulin level, fat burning turns on. So if you understand the biology of it, it all will work for you. But if you have the wrong information, and unfortunately, and that's nobody's fault, it's because we've just been given the wrong information for so long. Even people are paying really close attention to the science. The problem is the science isn't the right, the studies aren't done the right way. So anyway, I want people to know healthy whole foods, keep your blood sugar and insulin levels in a healthy range, get a glucose monitor, a continuous glucose monitor, even for 2 weeks, and see how that, smoothie is doing for you in the morning. For example, lots of people use smoothies in the morning, but smoothies can have a lot of carbohydrate in them. For some people, it's too much, right? So measure and see what's happening. And that way you can personalize your diet to your metabolism, because we're all a little different.
That was good. I've got about 3 major learnings from you today. And yes, I mean, I know everything about the A1C and the fasting glucose, and that was basically my focus in the last little while, because I would get up in the morning and take my sugar and my glucose level high and all that. But nobody's ever tested my insulin levels, as far as I know. So that's one thing that I'm going to get. I keep telling myself that I was weight loss resistant and nothing was working, and I exercise 6 days a week, and but nobody's ever tested my insulin. So what you just said is if your insulin is turning off your fat burning. So that's beautiful. I love that. And I know I heard before that you should pay attention to the triglycerides number, but I thought I might have heard wrong, or someone was given that information. They were saying something. It's a number that says the amount of inflammation in your body. Now you just said that it's the number that talks about how much fat is sticking. Does it also have anything to do with inflammation?
Triglycerides. Triglycerides are mostly about, what triglycerides are is they are fat that's floating around in the bloodstream. It's being carried around in the bloodstream. And where it comes from is, so let's say that you are an Olympic athlete and you, I don't know, let's say you eat a popsicle or, a fruit smoothie or something that has a lot of carbohydrate in it, like fast sugar, right? But you are about to run a marathon and you start running and your muscles are going to soak up all that glucose, right? So you're going to get a glucose spike in your bloodstream, but you're going to use it so fast that you're going to burn it right away, right? Most of us are not running marathons all the time. And so in any case, let's say that you're sitting and watching TV and you have a soda or a fruit juice or whatever, and you get a glucose spike. You might need some of that glucose for energy, right? Your cells do need some energy. So they're going to take some of that and use for energy. And we do store a little bit of carbohydrate in our muscles, and we store a little bit in our liver for emergencies, right? But we're not really designed to store a lot of carbohydrate energy. We're designed to store energy as fat. We can store months worth of energy as fat. I mean, we can contain God knows. So, but we have very small tanks for carbohydrate. So what happens if you eat more carbohydrate than you can burn or store right away? The body has no other choice but to turn it into fat. So that's what it does. The liver sees it coming. It's okay. We're gonna burn some of this. All right. We don't need it all. What do we do with the rest of it? Okay, we'll store some of it. Oh, those tanks are full. All the rest, you can eat a 0-fat diet and still have very high triglycerides because your liver's like, okay, what do we do with the rest of this? We got to turn it into fat and save it for a rainy day. So it turns the glucose into fat, sends it out in the bloodstream, and that's called triglycerides. If you are eating too much carbohydrate for your needs, the body's going to do this. That's what it's designed to do. It's not going to get rid of it. It's not going to waste all that energy. It's going to store it as fat. And so if your insulin levels are high, that's what's going to happen to it. So that's what the triglycerides are telling you. I have seen hundreds of times, and I've even, I co-authored a study that has this information in it, and other people have published. There's been study after study after study of low carbohydrate diets dropping people's triglycerides like a stone within weeks. You can drop your triglycerides 100 to 150 points within weeks if you drop your carbohydrate intake. So there's a very close relationship between those two things.
Okay. So that's great. Well, thank you for the education on triglycerides. I know that I've heard people saying that that's what the number you're supposed to watch, but I misinterpreted why. So now I understand. I've got to go look at mine again. So this is this is like life school. I love it. All right. So let's talk about your book now. All right. So your book is called Change Your Diet, Change Your Brain, right? Okay, so change your diet, change your mind. A powerful plan to improve mood, overcome anxiety, protect memory for a lifetime for optimal health. So tell us, why you wrote the book. What do you want people to walk away with after reading? I'm pretty sure it's all what we've just discussed today. And where can they pick up a copy of it?
Yeah, so you can pick up a copy of it wherever you like to buy books. I really like bookshop.org because they support independent booksellers, but you can buy the book wherever you like to buy books. It's available as audiobook and digital, as an ebook, as well as a regular book, whatever you like. But the reason I wrote the book is because it's really kind of two books in one. So one part of it is about helping people understand what the truth about nutrition and food is. Okay, why are we told all the time that whole grains are good for us? That's a myth. Why are we told that saturated fat is bad for us? That's a myth. Why are we told that plant proteins are better than animal proteins? That's a myth. So kind of explaining the truth about nutrition science so that people can kind of have a kind of clear the slate of the bad science and replace it with information that actually works and is true. So about half the book is about that. Like, you can look up your favorite foods. You can look up beans. There's a chapter about eggs and dairy. There's a chapter about fruits and vegetables, and you can, if whatever you're curious about. And the other half of the book is about the brain and how it works and how what causes mental health problems and how you can use food to try to reverse those mental health problems or improve them substantially. It includes all the science and the research and stories and examples and all kinds of, and even includes diet plans in the back. More than just one, not just ketogenic diet. That's not the only option. Don't worry, everybody. The ketogenic diet's amazing. A great option for a lot of people, but it's not the only thing. Not everybody wants or needs to do that. So there are 3 different dietary strategies that you can experiment with and personalize to your lifestyle and your preferences. And it includes recipes and all kinds of things in the back. And it has all these lab tests I was just telling you about. I really tried to put as much information in the book as I could to help people, to empower people, so that they can start to take control of their mental health and experiment with, get curious about food and the brain and how to feel better, and gives people some options in terms of what to try, because most of what we're told to try doesn't work. And I even explain in the book, okay, why don't I recommend the Mediterranean diet? I mean, the Mediterranean diet is better than the junky, so-called standard American diet, the SAD diet.
It's terrible.
But any diet beats that. I mean, you got it. That's not a hard thing to do, right? It's better, and if that's what you can do that, definitely. But I want you to know, if you've tried the Mediterranean diet and it hasn't worked for you, there's so much more you can do. You can do a lot better. And so just basically, I wrote the book to empower people with information that I have found works very well in clinical practice, and also is working well in our research. I mean, the research in this area is just really fascinating and very, very hopeful.
Yeah. Well, I normally consume my books by listening on Audible, but I'll pick up a hard copy of your book. So I want this on my shelf. And I have several family members that are vegans. They don't eat all that stuff. And I will send them a copy of this episode when it is live so that they can see what they're missing. As far as, I think one of our most important things that we talked about today is the fact that plant protein is not whole protein. It's not complete protein. That's the word. And and if you don't have complete protein, you've got to pick it up from someplace. And I'm sure that, they're not. They're just eating fruits and vegetables. And that's it. So yeah, our conversation today was very, very important. Talking about how we feed the brain and what the brain needs. And like you said from the very first question I asked, that if you take care of the brain, you didn't say this is just me. If you take care of your brain, the brain will take care of you. Right?
I love that. That is perfect. I love that. That's right.
That's right. You take care of the brain will take care of you. If you go that route, then everything else falls into place, because we spent a lot of time talking about sugars and carbohydrates and things like that, which is where a lot of people focus on, right? I mean, if you're into nutrition at all, that's what's going to be your focus. You're going to be focusing on, carbs and low carbs and things like that. So this was a very important conversation, Dr. Eid. Thank you so much for coming on the show and, transforming our minds. My mind was transformed today.
I really enjoyed every minute of it. I'm so grateful that you invited me on to speak to your audience. And it's been a really wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed meeting you and connecting to you. And yeah, I hope that it was useful.
Oh, it's extremely useful. It's extremely useful. I have some personal takeaways, and I'm sure that the listeners are because nobody has broken it down to them like this. We all hear all these different things, which is, I think before we started recording, I told you that 20 years or so ago, I heard someone say that a nutrition book is one of the most important books that you will ever have. But then the science of nutrition has changed so much, because I've been reading nutrition books and I'm getting all different things. One time you person say that, next person says this, and, is nightshade good to eat? Is legumes good? Is 1 minute they, for instance, I told you that I'm concentrating on weight loss, right? That's where my nutrition is focused. And I just found out just recently that if you eat about calorie dense foods, right? So, if you want to lose weight, then you work with the foods that are less dense in calories. And so, yeah, I started cutting out a lot of highly dense foods, which are meats, but I don't cut it out totally. I just eat less of it, right? But yeah, I mean, this information keeps changing, and you don't know, what's the right one. So you get them all, and you pick out the one that's best for your body, because your body is going to respond and you'll see it yourself, right? Because we're all different.
We are all different, but there are some things about us that are all exactly the same. And one thing that is exactly the same for all of us is if your insulin levels are too high, you will not be able to lose weight, period, full stop. Right. And the best way to lower your insulin levels is by lowering your carbohydrate intake. And it's just a fact. So, and anything that lowers your insulin levels will help you lose weight. That's why low calorie diets work. That's why exercise helps. That's why intermittent fasting works. And that's why low carbohydrate diets work. Is that if you eat less, if you eat less frequently, if you eat less food, if you eat fewer calories, if you eat lower carbohydrates, all of these things will lower your insulin levels. But you can't fast forever. You can't keep your calories low forever. You will get hungry. You can't exercise all day. The only way that you can keep your insulin levels in a healthy range all the time while not starving yourself to death is with a low carbohydrate diet. And I wish that wasn't true, but it is. And the good news about this is that because I know how hard this sounds for a lot of people, is that when you get your insulin levels down, like I said, within about 3 days or so, within 3 days to a week, most people who thought, oh my gosh, I could never live without rice or beans or pasta or bread or whatever it is, your metabolism changes and you get less hungry. Your appetite comes down. You start to lose weight. You start to feel better. Your taste buds change. You start to crave, and your interest in these foods goes down because your cells are getting their needs met. So they're not looking, okay, where's the carbohydrate? Where's the sugar? Where's the sugar? Where's the sugar? Mm-hmm. You take yourself off. And so it's much easier than it sounds. The first few days can be challenging, but it's much easier than it sounds. But no matter what kind of diet your folks are eating out there who are listening, whether it's vegan or not, paying attention to the quality, like the quality of the carbohydrate in your diet and the amount, and getting that right for your personal metabolism is really the key to good health, mental and physical health. So, and then there's all kinds of information in the book about how to figure that out, how to use a glucose monitor, what lab tests to do, how to safely switch into try different diets. Whatever you're doing out there, whatever diet you're following, everybody, no matter what their dietary preferences can get their insulin levels down. You just have to understand the biology of it, and then it will work for you.
Yes.
Everyone can lose weight. Nobody's metabolism is so broken that they can't get their insulin levels down.
Right. Yes, I'm good. That's another one of my takeaways from this conversation. So I don't think I've ever had mine checked. Obviously, fasting glucose is what the doctor sends to. So I'm definitely going to tell him to add that for my next metabolic panel. All right. So that's great. So what is your website, Dr. Eid, and what are your social media handles?
Yeah. So my website is called diagnosisdiet.com, or you can just type my name into Google and it'll come up. So it's Georgia Eid, EDE. And all my handles, Twitter, Facebook, X or whatever you call it, LinkedIn and Instagram are all Georgia Eid MD. So you can find me on social media as well. There's information about the book on the website, and there's all kinds of free articles and information on the website too, if you're not a book person. So hopefully there's something in there that will be useful to somebody.
Oh, yes, for sure. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of Transform Your Mind so that you can transform your life. Today, we're talking about transforming your diet so that you can have brain health and you can have metabolic health with Dr. Eid. I will have a transcript of my conversation with Dr. Eid on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I will link out to her book. I will link out to her website and also have a link out to her Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, I guess, handles. So you guys can follow her. You can get some more information. Definitely pick up a copy of her book because nutrition books, listen, saves lives. Food, everything we eat is being, transformed into something. If it's bad you eat, then you see bad. If you eat good, then you're healthy. So yes, you need to know. And, like Dr. Eid says, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So her book is telling you about the science. And the science is very important to know. Like I said, I'll pick up a hard copy of her book because, I want it to be a reference guide on my bookshelf. You guys should do the same. So thank you, Dr. Eid. I appreciate this information. I appreciate the learning. Thank you for being on the show. As we wrap up, any last words?
I just want to thank you for a great conversation. And I want to tell people out there, if they're dealing with a mental health issue, hope is on the menu.
Yes. Hope is on the menu. Yes. And you don't need to take those meds. You can fix your problem with diet. If there's one takeaway, that's what you should take away. Do not just go popping pills. You're depressed or you have anxiousness. Maybe leave those for the big things like schizophrenia or bipolar, but work with the diet as well too. So give it advice. All right, guys, listen, thank you. If you're watching this on iTunes, would love for you to subscribe, leave a review or a rating. If you're watching this on YouTube, would love to hear your comments. Of course, hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.